Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me here live at www.drginalyn.com for our So What Does That Look Like Bible study. If you're up this early this morning watching it live, it is Tuesday morning at 5:30 a.m. Perhaps you're watching it later through our video replay or even listening on our podcast. Either way, however you got here, we're so glad. So as always, this lesson and all other lessons are uploaded to our YouTube channel. And for this week, you certainly can still capture this lesson at our website, www.drginalyn.com. We thank you so much for being a part of our community. Thank you for sharing these lessons and allowing other people to tap in and join us as well. As a reminder, you're encouraged to subscribe to our website as well as our YouTube channel so that you can stay abreast of any new uploads, lessons, or just bits of information that we think would add value to your life. As always, you are welcome to and encouraged to interact with me. If you're here live, you're able to do that right there in the video. Just push the discussion button and it allows you to enter your email and then engage in the conversation. You're also welcome to just shoot me a quick email at info@drginalyn.com. So whether you're listening and you're not really at a place where you can interact with us, you're welcome later to just email us at info@drginalyn, that's GENALYN.com, and it will allow us to know that you too are engaging and a part of this broadcast. So with all of those logistical things being out of the way, just thanks again for being here, and let's go ahead and dive into the word. So what does that look like? Why is the Bible study even called that? Because it is our desire to get practical tips on what it actually looks like to apply, to walk through the different principles that the Bible affords us when we are in various issues, circumstances, or situations. And so for today, the specific question is, what does it look like to serve God even when things appear to be getting worse? What does it look like to serve God even when things appear to be getting worse? Because, we really don't want to think about that. The idea that things are getting worse when I'm trying to serve God, does that actually happen? Well, I am quite sure that if you were to ask believers, there are a host of us who can tell you that there are moments on this Christian journey when it appears that although I am doing my absolute best, like I am right there at that song when it says, after I've done all I can stand, I am doing that, and it still appears that things are getting worse. If you can agree with that, to my viewing audience, go ahead and say, I understand that, because many of us have been there. We've been in that moment. And so if you are a new believer, or if you're a believer, and perhaps you think that only is happening to you, you're the only one who's ever experienced just really working diligently to please God, to serve God, to walk according to his principles and all of that. And it seems as if your life is getting worse. I want you to know that you are not alone. And if you just hold on a moment and give some of these believers a quick moment to kind of type it in and say she's telling you the truth, you will see that there is a host of us who can identify with what you are perhaps experiencing. So what does it look like to serve God even when things appear to be getting worse? In Daniel chapter 3, we have a scenario. It is happening right in Babylon. And in Babylon, we understand, is where the Hebrews, the children of Israel, God's people, they have been taken into captivity. So they're in captivity already. Like, that's enough to not be able to go home, to worship with your God, to be among your people in your own land. They are in captivity. And if you're like me, even when I'm on vacation, there is just a moment when I'm ready to go home, when it's just done and I'm ready to go home. So we can imagine they're in captivity. Many of them are probably at a place where they're just, I'm ready to go home, to be in my own space, to lay in my own bed, to be among my own people, all of that. And that can't happen. So that's enough by itself. And then we have the king Nebuchadnezzar, who determines, for whatever reason, that he's going to build this statue. The Bible says that it is 60 cubits high. That's about 90 yards high. So that's if you were to envision perhaps like you were to envision a man who in general, it may be about 6 feet tall, right? And you can do some quick math and put that into 90 feet. And you would know that that is right at about 15 men high. right? Standing shoulder on top of shoulder on top of shoulder. That's how big this statue is. And it's about 6 cubits wide. And so it's this huge, massive type of thing that King Nebuchadnezzar is like putting right into the captivity, into the people who are in captivity, into their face. So let's kind of try to identify what that is. If something is already wrong, it's already a difficult situation, and then someone intentionally comes to put something else like right in your face to just make it worse, to just kind of rub salt into the wound, to kind of just exacerbate the situation more than it already is, right? So that's how the enemy is doing this. Like, not only can you not worship your God, but now I'm about to build this big old idol. It's in your face. You can't even act like you don't see it. It's all around you. And it reminds you that you can't serve your God. In fact, this is what he says: gather up all my people. Because that's often how the enemy does. Let me gather up some other folk. Let me instigate and agitate and aggravate and get a whole lot of other people worked up. Let me do all of that. And then when y'all hear this music play, all of you who are in captivity, when you hear this music play, you're supposed to bow down to this idol. Now, I know for you Hebrew people, you Jewish people, you people who are from, are designated as God's people, that is against what you believe in. But I'm just saying, when you hear this music, I'm going to need you to bow down and worship this idol. And he says then that if you do not bow down and worship the idol, I'm going to go up to the verse so I can tell you exactly where he is. He says that if you're not going to bow down to worship the idol. For those of you who are just listening in, give me just 1 second. I'm going to tell them the specific verse for those who are viewing and following. In verse number 6, it says, "And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast immediately into the midst of a burning fiery furnace." I just laugh like, the enemy wants to be intentional about making their life difficult. If you don't bow down and worship, then I'm going to compound what you're already going through by throwing you into a burning fiery furnace. Yeah. So even though I'm kind of journaling through this story, I'm still reflective of things in my life where in moments where it just felt like this happened. And oh God, I'm trying to catch my breath from this. And then that happened, and that has sat in my heart. And God, I'm trying to balance out this, and then this happens, and that's a financial expense, and then this happens, and this is a relational expense. And at some point, it's like that bank account is almost depleted, and it's just like, Father, God, Daddy, God. And in the midst of all of this, I really can't say that I'm praying and I'm reading my word and I'm trying to be in good fellowship and I'm trying to be accountable and I'm trying to go to church and serve you and give of my tithes and offerings and just the things according to what you know about God, the things that you believe that are right and good. I'm trying to do that, and it just looks like the phraseology when people say you just can't catch a break, right? And I'm not declaring that. I'm just trying to define or describe how sometimes the situation can feel like that. The situation can feel like it has circumstances, and your circumstances can feel as if they have situations. So that's what's going on here. So at the time when all of the people heard the sound of the horn, this is in verse number 7, it says, all of the people, all of the nations and the languages fell down and worshiped the gold image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Why does the Bible even highlight that there are people, nations, and languages? Because there is a combination of people who have been taken into captivity together. There are various people from various nations who speak different languages, and all of them have been taken into captivity in this one location in Babylon. So then here's what's interesting. Instead of those people kind of teaming up and working together, here's what happens, okay? In verse number 8, if you'll just join me there, if you're viewing and kind of interacting, and for those of you who are right here with me live, yes, thank you. You are definitely welcome to interact. So good morning to you, Amber, and good morning to those of you who are joining me on other platforms. There we go. So verse number 8, it says, therefore at that time, certain Chaldeans came forward and accused the Jews. They spoke and said to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever, ingratiating themselves to him. You, O king, have made a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, and they name all the instruments in symphony with all kinds of music, they shall fall down and worship the gold image. And whoever does not fall down, king, this is what you said. You said that you were going to throw them into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. So they say, so there are certain Jews. There are certain Jews. In my mind right there, I'm just like, you know what? First of all, you're in captivity too. Okay? You're in captivity too. So when he said that he was going to blow the music, the horns, and do the music, he said that everybody was supposed to bow down. Now, I don't know who put you in charge, but you were supposed to be bowing down. Why are you all over here? Why are you not minding your own business? Why are you not bowing down? However that played out, I'm not sure. I just know that the Chaldeans, who were also supposed to be in captivity and bowing down, they are instead going to the king and reminding the king of what he said. And then they point out there are certain Jews. Like, we got some specific people that we want to tell you about. It was Shadrach, it was Meshach, and it was Abednego. See, they didn't bow down. O king, they have not paid regard to you. That's in verse number 12. They do not serve your gods, nor do they worship the gold image that you have set up. But we want to remind you, you gave them a promotion. You put them over some of the provinces of Babylon. And therein is their agenda. They are jealous. They have this agenda. They've been waiting and watching the Jews. They've wanted to tell the king that about these people. And so when this moment occurs, they can barely wait to get to the king and say, see, you gave them a promotion and they don't even honor you or serve the God that you serve. And I'm just going to give us a quick tag into that right now. As believers, sometimes that is difficult to process, but there are people who really are not rooting for us for one simple purpose. They do not like that we serve the one true living God and that he promotes us and he grants us favor right in their presence. Some people are irritated and aggravated that you would dare try to live according to convictions and the word and principle, and God actually blesses your life. They have an issue with that. They have an agenda that is already preset against you, and however that can be worked out, they will use any opportunity, because again, he has said for everybody to bow down. You ought to be bowing down. Why are you even over here in my life looking at what I'm doing and concerned about what I'm doing? But they are, and they make an issue of it, and they go and they try to stir up the king and get him irritated and agitated against you. And so against the three Hebrew boys, that's what happens. And so we can know that type of traction, that type of cadence or energy can occur in our lives too. So they tell that to the king, right? So they pointed it out and made an agenda to report the people who are being promoted. But you can rest assured, God already sees and knows that. He already knew that was coming down the road for the Hebrew boys. So we're going to go ahead and get our first tip here. What does it look like to serve God even when things appear to be getting worse? Number one, you just play what you have practiced. What do I mean by that? Well, as I emphasized earlier, the Chaldeans pointed out, called them by name, and told the king, they do not have regard for you. They do not serve your gods, and they will not worship the golden image. Now, they didn't say today when you blew the horn, today when you sounded the music, the three Hebrew boys did not bow down. They didn't say we got a group of people who we saw that did not bow down, and we're going to identify them for you. Just take us to where they were, and we'll point them out. They actually already know their nationality. They actually already know their specific names, and they give a conclusionary summary. They say they will not serve your gods, nor will they worship the golden image. How do they even know that? Because the three Hebrew boys are simply playing what they have already been practicing. If we were to think back, we would remember that it was early on amongst these same people that the three Hebrew boys were offered the king's meat and the king's drink. And they declined, even in that time, to take of it. They said, we trust our God and we trust the nourishment that he has already ordained for our lives. So just allow us to eat our beans, to eat our porridge, and see not if we will be as intelligent as the men who are eating the king's meat. So I'm saying that to say this idea of following God, even when the crowd is going a different way, this idea of resisting what the king offers when they believe that God has already established a standard for them, that's nothing new for the three Hebrew boys. They already have a reputation of going by what they believe their one true living God has spoken over their life. And for many of us, for many of you, your reputation already precedes you. People already know, okay, she the one that bless her food when we go to restaurants. She the one gonna pray a minute if you bring something to her attention instead of talking about it. She's the one who's gonna refuse to lie or to cheat, or he's the one who's not going to be inappropriate and he's gonna do what's right. He's the one who's not gonna put someone in an uncomfortable position to try to win his favor, to get a gain. These are the ones who are trying to do it according to a different way. That reputation really, honestly, probably already precedes many of you, as it did with the three Hebrew boys. So this was nothing new for them. They were simply playing what they had already practiced. And that would be my tip for each of us. When it seems as if things are getting worse, when you are trying to serve God, I encourage you to continue to pray what you have practiced. If you play what you have practiced, if you are a person who prays, who fasts, who tries to sow what you want to reap, don't change the rules. Don't shortcut yourself. Don't buy into some of the common cliches like good people don't win, or a good person always comes in last. Trust God that he who is on our side, greater is he who is with us than those who are against us. Believe that God is truly working out all things together for the good, for those of us who love him and who are called according to his purpose. Just know that God really is on your side. So that's what I would say. Tip number one would be play what you've practiced. Don't allow people to cause you to be swayed. Play what you've practiced. Now, as we continue in this Bible study, we're going to jump down to verse number 16. I'll say this right here. Let's see. The king himself, King Nebuchadnezzar, he became in a rage, is what the Bible says. He became in a rage and greatly angered, and he pulled the three Hebrew boys to him. He summons for them, and he began to say to them, just kind of like in case y'all didn't understand the instructions, he gives them all over again. And he says, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, is it true? Like, for real, y'all didn't bow down. So this is what I want y'all to do. When you hear the music, this time, I want you to bow. Now, whenever you're ready, when you hear the music, I want you to bow. I love this about these bad boys. I absolutely love this part. Let me tell you what they do in verse number 16. They hear what the king has said. They understand that the king is pretty much giving them another chance, a chance to get it right. They know that he's about to replay that music, and when he does, they're supposed to bow down, and they say to him, King, like, for real, it's no point. There's no need for us to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, that when you play the music, you want us to bow down. Otherwise, you're going to determine that you're going to throw us into the fiery furnace. They say to him, there is no need for us to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, our God, whom we serve, he's able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. Forget this part. In verse 18, it says, but if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the gold image which you have set up. Here's tip number 2. I would say predetermine what you will do. What does it look like to serve God even when things appear to be getting worse? Predetermine what you will do, even if things get worse. These bad boys say to him, you don't even have to play the music, sir. There is no point in you practicing or allowing us to bow down. We can tell you in advance, we are not going to bow down. And you know what? Our God can deliver us. But even if he doesn't, we still will not bow down. They had predetermined what they will do. It is allowing ourselves as believers to not think that it is a lack of faith, to not think that somehow we're not dedicated or committed to the cause of Christ. If we allow ourselves to process our worst case scenarios in anything that we're believing God for, and then to determine at the end of that how we will still interact with our God. In fact, it's not a lack of faith. It is a definitive move towards being even more committed to the faith. When you say to yourself, as Jesus did the same thing, he said, if it be your will, remove the assignment from me. But in worst case scenarios, if you don't, and I have to go all the way to the point of to the cross and all the way to death, he says, not your will, God, but not my will, but your will be done. It was his way of saying that I really kind of wish this would work out differently. I wish that the person would be healed, or I wish that I would be able to have the child, or I wish the relationship would be salvaged, or I wish the job would give me an extended contract, or I wish the car would not break down, or I wish the family fight had not happened, whatever that thing is. But in the case of the worst case scenario, I'm still making up my mind in advance. I'm predetermining what my posture will be before the worst thing happens. And at the end of it, I'm still going to declare that I will serve the one true living God. It reminds me of the movie Fireproof, when there's this one scene where this woman is at the doctor's office and she has been trying for a child for many years. And the question is posed to her, but what if you never have this child? And it is not about discouraging her. It's not about trying to take away from her faith. It is the idea, it is the notion that we're not serving God because he is a Santa Claus and we get to jangle chains and move him as with a puppet master and he grants us our every wish. It is this determination that yes, there are desires that I have. Yes, there are things that I want God to do in my life, but I'm not serving him because he's a sugar daddy or because he's my genie and I get to rub a bottle and make a wish and he does what I want. If he never does the things that I am believing for, this is when it becomes real. If you never do anything else for me, I'll serve him anyway. So that's what that's about. So tip number one is, what does it look like to serve God even when things appear to be getting worse? Number one is play what you have practiced. If you've been praying, keep praying. Don't allow circumstances to cause you to begin to back up off of connecting with your one true living God. Play what you've been practicing. Number two, predetermine what you will do, even if the worst case scenario happens. It's not a lack of faith to process emotionally, mentally, spiritually what a journey may do to you if you don't receive a certain thing or experience like healing in your body on this side, what that may do to you. But it's to say, regardless of that, I want it to turn out a certain way, but if it doesn't, I'm still going to serve the one true living God. So here is then what the three Hebrew boys say to him. You don't have to play the music, sir. We're not going to bow down. You don't have to play the music. We're not going to bow down. And in fact, sir, God can deliver us, but if he doesn't, he just doesn't. He's still the one true living God. Amen. Okay, so we are here at verse number 19. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king, he's full of fury and rage. It says that his expression, like he got mad, his expression changed towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he commanded them to turn the furnace up 7 times. Imagine that they're already in captivity, already surrounded by the enemy, already have this big old idol right in their face, already hear this music and commotion going on, already everybody else is bound down, so they're standing out. And then the king says, turn the fire up 7 times. You mean you want to make hot hotter and then hotter and hotter? It's the enemy's intentional action to make life even more difficult. That's what he does. He commands that the fire is made 7 times hotter. It's so hot that the people who are preparing to chunk them into the fire, they actually die from the heat. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they are tossed into the fire. And then here's what happened. The king looks inside and he notices that it looks like there are four people on the inside of the fire. And in it, he says, it looks as if I can see the Son of God. He actually pauses and asks them, didn't we throw only 3 people into there? It looks like it's 4, right? Like he gets it. And he says that appears to be the Son of God. So of course they are brought out of the fiery furnace. And I'm not quite sure of the details of how that happened, but this is the beautiful piece. King Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angels and delivered his servants who trusted in him." So you have gone from blasting them for believing in God, throwing them into a fiery furnace, to now acknowledging that they have a God who delivers. And in fact, in verse number 29, he says, "Therefore, I make a decree that anybody who speaks against the people, the nation, or the language, which is the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I'm going to cut them in pieces and then I'm going to burn the houses down." I said, King Nebuchadnezzar is a hot mess. He goes from one extreme to the other. He makes a decree that anybody who speaks against the God or the people or the nation or even the languages of the 3 Hebrew boys, they are going to be cut into pieces and their houses are going to be burned into ash heaps in verse number 29. But he summarizes it by saying this: because there is no other God who can deliver like their God. Y'all, that's our encouragement as believers today. There is no other God. Somebody say, there is no other God that can deliver like my God. Like my God. And in the midst of circumstances when it just appears that I'm trying to serve God, but things are getting worse, we have to actually remind ourselves of that. Like there are moments, I am sure, that if you allow yourself to think back, you can remember other moments when you perhaps thought, how will I ever get through this? How will I ever make it through? You have to remind yourself that you got through, that you're on the other side. And he is that same God. His track record is good with you. Remind yourself of that. Think of a circumstance or a situation and remind yourself that in the same way that he delivered then, and I am still here today and watching this broadcast about him, it means that he's worked some things out. He's still capable, because even as King Nebuchadnezzar, the enemy says, there is no God who's able to deliver like my God. So as I go back and just kind of summarize, because we're at our time, here are the 3 tips today. So what does it look like to serve God even when things appear to be getting worse? Number 1, you play what you practice. Don't detour. Don't allow yourself to open the door to practicing some new faith or embracing some new book and some new word and some new knowledge that is far away from the God that you serve. Now, I'm not discouraging us from going in the things of God. I mean alternative ways that are far from the things of your God. Because see, here in this place of captivity, they could have said, we're going to go ahead and go with that idol thing because it don't look like the people who serve the idol, they're not getting killed. Or we're going to go ahead and we're going to try the king's suggestions because it kind of looks like they're winning. David said, my foot almost would have slipped, but I believe to see the goodness of my God. We have to continue to believe to see the goodness of our God. We have to play what we have been practicing. Number 2, we have to predetermine what will we do if it ends up in our worst case scenario. And hopefully, just like the boys, the 3 Hebrew boys here in this story, we have all come to the conclusion that he can deliver us. But even if he doesn't, I'm going to still say the name Jesus. You're not going to catch me slipping. I'm only going to call on the name that is above every other name. So number 2, you have to predetermine what you will do before you're in a worst case scenario. And last but not least, number 3, you have to put the responsibility on God to deliver. That's what they did. That was what they did. They said he can deliver, but in case he doesn't, that's all on him. But as we see, God did that. So we have to train ourselves. We're people who like to have solutions, answers, fix it. We have to train ourselves to put the responsibility on God, to be the way out of no way, to be the way maker, to be the God who shows up right in the nick of time. He is that God, but we have to allow him to be that God and trust that he is well able to do that. So that kind of concludes us for this morning. I will be starting a new series in the month of June, which will be next week. Can you believe that? Next week will be in June and we'll start a new series. But for this month, I thank you for joining me for these sessions in which we've just talked about this other side of the journey, the not so, I guess, glamorous or pretty parts of this Christian walk at times. We have looked at our faith siblings, Hannah. We've also looked at our faith sibling, Samuel. We looked at our faith sibling, Jonah. And then now we've also looked at our faith sibling, the Hebrew boys. And so all of these videos are uploaded to my YouTube channel at Dr. Gina Lynn. In addition, you can catch this week's lesson. It's still posted on both the YouTube channel as well as my website, www.drginalynn.com. So I hope that this time has blessed you. My prayer for each of us this week as we process this lesson and think through some things and perhaps journey through some things is that we remember that God really is a deliverer. He's well able to deliver us. And as we just journey through whatever our circumstances and situations are, may we be reminded to play what we've been practicing, to predetermine what we will do, hold to that. And 3, put the responsibility on God to be the deliverer. He's well able to do that. I love you on today. I send God's blessings your way and just trust that he who has begun a good work in you, the same way that he's keeping me, he keeps you until the day of Jesus Christ. Be blessed. And yes, of course, you're welcome to share and invite other people to journey in and be blessed by this word. God bless you on the YouTube channel. God bless you on our website. God bless you on the podcast and any other platforms through which you're viewing us today. Have a wonderful rest of the week. I'll see you next week, Tuesday. Bye-bye.